welcome to this Neotango Nights recap, and in this video we're going to go over our two workshops from the Welsh International Neo and Nuevo Festival, and those workshops were on the 2nd of August, and also our Thursday class from the 30th of July. So we'll start off with the festival workshops, which neither of us were meant to be teaching. Well, Alison wasn't meant to be teaching either. So the first workshop was from the salon to the stage, or from the stage to the salon, whichever way around it was. And it was looking at what we can take from show tango and incorporate it into normal social tango. And in particular, it became a very technique-driven workshop. So we started off by just doing a walk down the room, but from an embrace, doesn't matter if it was closed or open, just going for a walk like you would do in a milonga. But then we really focused down on the technique, because in stage tango, because you're performing in front of people, you want them to see them, more becomes more. So looking at really delving into the technique of walking, so sinking into that knee, getting that really long projection from the follower to create that line. Same for the leaders, really projecting the leg forward, whether you're going on the heel or the toe, not committing to the step until you get that final push through the ankle, and then stylising it up with transferring the weight onto the front of the leader's foot. So projecting, stretching that toe, so you end up with these long walks. The first half of the workshop was working on those sort of elements, and also just correcting some things that we'd seen just in general dancing, but arm positions and stuff like that. We then looked at the back ocho. So from our side step to the left, pivoting the follower back, and the follower is seen using that same projection method to make these ochos nice and big. So you could say that in a milonga, you can't do big steps. That's almost irrelevant. It's about the technique, because if you do start taking smaller steps, you can get away with less good technique, which means then it gets that less good technique gets incorporated. So coming back to these basics and working on them is far more important than that. So from our back ocho, we looked at taking the follower into this belay. And the first exercise was just to hold it for a full 8 beats, so you get used to actually being still within the dance. We then took this into 2 exercises. For the first one, allowing the follower in those 8 beats to be able to decorate. So in stage tango, holding this for 8 beats and just staying still might be a framing effect if you're dancing as an ensemble. And also this would also give you time for followers' decorations in a social environment. So we talked about those, and the next exercise then was to take these movements and then be able to pull them through, so you're still getting movement even when you are almost still. So taking your time, leaders maybe sinking down, getting that projection, bringing it up, so you're actually still creating movement even though you are almost still. And then finally we looked at taking this exaggeration and taking other elements of show tango, which is just general shaping with the rest of your body. So for instance, overturning this ocho, so you come into this more of a shape here, projecting lines, maybe doing arm movements, pauses, interposes, and then taking it out and creating the contrast. In our second workshop, so neither of us were down to ever teach this one. This was Soltadas for Neotango. So what we did was, at the beginning of the workshop, we showed about 10 or 11 different types of soltadas, and asked those doing the workshop to select the ones that they would have liked us to teach. And 3 were selected. So the first one was from a back ocho, pivoting the follower to the lead. So she takes a side step to the lead, or back step to the leader's left, The leader's been able to find a burida by sweeping the follower's foot along the floor, so we went over burida techniques, and also importantly, followers can burida their leaders. And then taking the follower into this sandwich position before performing the passada, where she would normally take into an ocho. But for this, we are almost acting like a spiral. So as a leader, we're going to center the follower's weight. So she actually has the weight on the balls of both feet. And then I'm going to move my chest around my follower, so take my chest to the left around my follower, which bring my arm around her, and then continue that motion. I don't need this hand. I can give a little bit of pressure on the back, or I could just drop it in immediately to pivot her underneath. She's going to keep her feet exactly where they are, so she can pivot, and then I can pick up the foot in the next burida and chain these together. So this was our first soltada. Our second soltada was from the Americana walk, and again this is correcting a pet peeve of mine where followers bounce their legs straight out of this enganche position rather than following the lead and leaving the leg there. So from a side step, we went into Americana, finding a parada block, pivoting the follower around with our chest and bring our chest up, which invites the follower to hook her leg on the leader's leg. From here, I can step back and then to the side, and as I do this, I'm going to rotate my chest to the left, which gets this hook on the other side. So from a different angle, that looks like this. I can then come back to the right, picking up my follower's leg in another gancho, so my right chest is twisted back to the follower to the right, hence why you get this hook. I can then step in front of my follower, turn my back on her. We're advised just taking her arm up onto the leader's right shoulder, and from here we've got our soltada, so we're separate, so I can bring her around in front, or I can turn to face her. And then the final soltada was, because we had Diana at the workshop, it was actually Nick and Diana's inspired one, which goes from back ocho. I'm going to step through with my right leg, find a normal gancho here, but as I do this, I'm going to keep rotating on the balls of my feet, taking my hand over my head. Because my chest is now facing this direction, the leg goes straight. As my chest turns towards the back of the room, she gets this hook, and I can scoop my leg back through and pick her up. And that was the final soltada. So we'll now go on to the Thursday class. So this is the type of stuff we do in our everyday classes. So we were looking at a way into an ocho and then basically taking almost the same sequence of steps, but seeing what happens when you make small variations. So from my outside system of walking, when I was going forward on the left foot, so the follower just gone back on the right, and pivoting the follower in this position to bring her across me. And as I do that, I'm going to withdraw my foot. So I'm going to perform a usual ocho. As I take my chest to the right to lead her across me, I'm going to step through with my left foot to find a zacada, which I can then come through in an Americana position, and from here straighten my chest up to find this hook, which was actually the same hook that we had in the workshop, and from here I can pivot her around, get another leg wrap before walking out in the cross system. If I'm in the cross system already, I do the same sort of sequence. So I'm going to bring my right foot forward, twist my chest to the left to lead you into that ocho. Again, I'm going to withdraw that leg, but as you come through now, I'm going to place my right leg through, which will then get the zacada. If I leave my right leg forward, I can then get back to this Americana position to be able to get those leg wraps and walk out again. So there is a sequence with a couple of zaccadas that you can see what happens when you change foot and then bring it back to the same position. Anyway, thank you for watching this recap video. Thank you to all those who attended the festival and the class. We'll see you in another festival, class or video very soon.